Alrighty, here she is. She is not the cleanest. For anybody curious, that's where your key is. So we've done a talk about, but we haven't done a ride along. But I do want to give you something here. Welcome to the Harley V-Ride. On the hottest day, what feels like the hottest day ever in Mississippi, a very lean jetted bike on purpose. Well, a little misfire in there. I think that's a fueling from sitting stagnant for so long, but jetted lean on purpose to meet emission standards back in 03, 02. Sorry. And that lean jetting, of course, causing, or I call it jetting because I'm so used to carbureted bikes lately, but the injectors, it's fueled lean. It's fueled very lean, and it does get very hot. If you live somewhere cold, that's great, especially if you have a windscreen. But when you live down here and you get at a stoplight and that radiator fan kicks on and it torches your right leg, not so great. But if you haven't already noticed, the power delivery, on this bike is insanely smooth. Of course, everyone knows Dusseldorf test. It was a racing engine of Harley that they had the Porsche involvement with, and I believe I heard this from a mechanic. I'm not sure if this is true, but they say if you look at the starter on this bike and you look at the starter on some Yamahas, that Yamaha had something to do with the development of this engine as well. But like I said, somebody knows a little bit better than I do, wants to comment on that and chime in and let me know. But I believe Yamaha might have had some development input too, maybe before the V-Rod was even a concept, maybe just with Harley in general. But oh my god, yeah, very tall first gear, by the way. The first gear on this bike will take you to 62 miles per hour. That's why the 0 to 60 time is probably so damn quick. That and a long wheelbase, it keeps it nice and stable when you launch it. I do like the Harley blinkers, man. And there's a couple things that Harley will do when you sit on it for the first time, especially a bike like the V-Rod. But you get like a cool feeling. You feel like you're a little bit cooler than you might actually be. At least I do. It's like you can like punch somebody harder in a bar. All right, come on, car. And then we got one more on the left here. We're gonna take. It's a nice little curve over here actually to go take. We got our own little dead man's curve. Yeah. If you notice, I'm not really catching a whole lot of gears. Look at that sprinkler. You don't need to on this bike. That's one thing. A lot of people who talk about needing a sixth gear or a bike, I think they don't understand, like, a ratio. It's going to be what it's going to be. 6 gears going to widen the options that you have. But sometimes, though, for everyday driving, man, having just 5 to go through instead of 6, it's kind of a nice luxury. You don't have to shift as often. I've had 6-speed bikes where I'm like, I feel like I'm shifting like every 2 seconds. I've got to shift up or down. You got to be careful on this road. There is a ton. Oh, right here you can see the guy cutting grass over here on the right, but there is a ton of grass clippings around these curves around here. Especially where we live in down in the Gulf Coast area, you know, where you got a lot of hot, humid summers that just feed grass. It turbocharges weeds and grass. But the VRSCA, this is loose. I should have tightened this before we headed out. There is 2 Phillips heads on the back of that, though, if you do want to tighten it. For today, I'll just look. Sometimes I check the mirror, then look. Well, we'll take this down to the beach. There's a big thing about these solid wheel V-Rods, and there's a debate. People say that it makes no difference if you have a spoked wheel versus that solid cast wheel. But I'm here to tell you right now, it makes a huge difference, especially where we're going, because we're going to go to the beach. We're going to get up to as close as I can get to freeway speed, depending on traffic, and I will tell you, it feels like it pushes the bike from the bottom. Normally I'm used to fighting like wind shears and stuff from the top, but the way that the wind pushes the bike on the V-Rod is very different than any other bike I've ever felt. And I actually considered looking for a set of like gasser style wheels to put on here just to get some flow through the spokes, and I feel like that would honestly change the dynamic of how this bike rides. When you ride a V-Rod, so you have to think, so I've got a Voyager 1200, a DR650, and a V-Rod. And the V-Rod literally takes a complete shit on the power of those other two bikes. And one thing it will make you is angsty, because you'll get behind a car and you want to push this bike. This bike makes you want to push it. Oh, and this clutch, it's very heavy, if anyone was curious. In a video, you know, it's hard to tell in a video. Sometimes like everything looks easy on video, but this clutch in traffic, this is not a bike for traffic. You don't want to have heavy traffic on this bike. You'll not be happy. This thing freaking eats. Oh my god. Front brake's really strong. The rear brake, we're gonna have to give it a C-, maybe a D+. Front brake though, ooh, it'll snatch your ass up. This is a tag from a for sale sign that I had on here. I will be selling it, not because I don't like, oh, look at that, forgetting the downshift of the light, a rookie mistake. I will be selling the bike, but it's really to consolidate space at my home. We are short on space. I will be selling my Voyager and my Harley, and I will be putting some focus into the DR650, which I'm going to try to convert into an everyday bike, and possibly within a year or two I might actually consider another bike, a T7, a V-Strom 800, even the Transalp, something newer with modern tech, or even a good deal on a newer V-Strom 650, something that I can take my kids on, because the DR650 I can two up on it, but I can't really feel too good as far as safety goes for my children with them on the bikes that I currently have. The Voyager, no ABS, it's super heavy. The V-Rod is pretty much, this is not a two-up bike. I know you can go two-up, you can tour on it, you can freaking go camping with it, you can do anything on any bike. But realistically, the kids are terrified of this bike. The bike they feel safest on is the Voyager, but the thing is it's a rock solid bike. But as far as if I need to do anything quick, fast, and in a hurry with a passenger on it, it's not going to happen. I will miss this. I got a vasectomy and I'm selling my Harley in the same month, so not very fun. Look at the power you have for overtake, crazy. And I'm not even giving it the full, you know, the full kick in the ass. And then fifth gear. So we're fifth gear right now, yeah. Doing, if you're curious, take a look at the speedo here. I'll get it up to 70. So 70-ish. You're doing 4,000 RPMs. You got 5 left. You got 5,000 left. So think about that. Now, if there was a crosswind right now, which there's not, I'm actually going somewhat into the wind, but if there was a crosswind right now, I would be feeling the bottom end of this bike before I felt the wind hit the top of me. So when I've ridden my ADVs, I've had an FJR, I've had an FJR, VFR 1200X, I've had some bigger bikes, I've had a Yamaha Striker, that was a long time ago, but I've had other bikes. The wind has always hit me in the shoulder. I've always felt it first in the shoulder, which is why, you know, you relax your arms when you're going down the interstate. But in this bike, I've never felt the lower bottom end of a bike feel like it's like kind of sliding underneath me, especially on the interstate. That's one thing I do not like about a V-Rod. And there are probably more experienced riders that ride, and they're gonna go, oh, it's you as a rider or whatever. It is me as a rider, but it's also me feeling shit. I know what I feel. I don't like it. I like this bike from red light to red light down the beach in low traffic scenarios. This bike's incredibly niche, but there's people that have had this bike for 20 years and it's their everything. And that's the type of rider you are. That has a lot to do with it. Another thing that's tough for me about having this bike, one of the reasons that prompted me selling it, is I have to ride in a standard position. So in a sport bike position or in a forward control situation like on this bike, it changes the pivot at my hip. And I have some lower disc pain from some injuries that I got in the military, straining it, getting in and out of a striker. Oh, look at that blinker left on. But getting in and out of a striker, ARF vehicle, tore my back up kind of bad one time. I actually had to get on muscle relaxers for it. But if I'm not in a standard riding position, I can't be canted forward like in the gargoyle sport bike position that hurt on the FJR. The same thing with this, though. The forward controls actually hurt to lean forward on. But look at this power. Jesus Christ. Now we're going fast enough, and I wanted to take this road because it's a low traffic type part of the day. Look at me going for a 6. It's a low traffic part of the day, but I wanted to show what it was like at speed. Although there's not enough wind. I wanted to get some wind, but it doesn't look like we're going to have that today. Very tall gearing. See, I just stopped. I started in second, but look at this guy. Let's see if he notices us. There we go. Get out of your way. You do feel cool on this bike. One of the bikes I want to compare it to is the V-Strom 1000, like the last gen, not the newest gen, but the last gen, like a 2018, because it's similarly powered, but the weight's different, the wheelbase is different, and the whole suspension setup. It's a whole different bike, obviously. But I want to see, that weighs 518. I think this weighs around 600, 620, somewhere in that range. I want to see how they feel with similarly powered V-twins. The V-Strom's a little bit lower in horsepower. I think it's like 105, maybe. This is 120. But figuring, you know, you're compensating for a little bit of extra weight on this, it'd be interesting to see how they compare. I think somebody with a windshield on this, they would have a hell of a good winter bike, though. We're getting close to what's called Restaurant Row. It's in Biloxi, Mississippi. That's many on here, but we're getting close to Restaurant Row in Biloxi, though, so we will hit some traffic. We will potentially feel some heat. All right, a lot of slow left lane drivers down here. I don't know why that is. Something about when you cross the state line into Mississippi, doesn't matter where you're from, it seems like everybody wants to drive slow in the left lane. I'm not going to say what the speed limit is here, though, so that might have something to do with it. This bike in particular has been in my life, not as an owner, but it's been in my life since it was new. I was 19. My uncle got it as a 50th birthday present from my aunt. And he rode some, but he started on this as his first bike, and every rider is different. And he had a V-Rod in Maui, he had a V-Rod in California, and I guess he was turning over some gravel, and even with the big tire, I think this is, you know, the skinny tire, this is the quote-unquote faster tired V-Rod, but he was going around some corner, I think it had gravel or something, and he crashed, and then he got rear-ended. He just got bumped one day, And so he never sat on the bike again. And then he and I talked, and I got it shipped, and now I have it. But it's been in my life for a long time, but right now it's not serving my use case. And even though I can get sentimental about some things, it has to be practical in my life. But it's kind of selfish to me to just have it taking up space around the home when I could free up some space that I desperately need right now, including the Voyager space that it's taking up. And I will miss it, but down the road, if I do get more space and sell enough stuff, I want to consider adding something else. We'll see. Here we are at Restaurant Row. Like I told you, we start hitting the traffic lights here. Now you'll see this radiator kick on and it'll start blasting you. Again, you see me not using the bottom, on the bottom, if you see my foot, you see me not using the rear brake a lot. Normally I kind of try to 50-50 pull them, but with this bike, you've got to be careful. This, I don't know if it's just this V-Rod in particular. It actually just got back from the shop, but it has a tendency to lock up that rear tire pretty bad and slide the ass end out from under you. There's somebody riding, maybe a little rental ruckus. I wave to everybody. I'm one of those people, I'll wave to you if you're on a scooter. Some people, I don't wave to everybody. Here, let's get into some of the town here. We're gonna start turning up pretty soon. We're not really quite by anything. This is a weird spot in Biloxi. This, in the 1920s, is a little history thing. It was called the Almost Island, and it's 19 acres. It used to be a nature preserve, and then in the 40s and 50s, they started building restaurants. They cleared it and started building restaurants after they added some artificial beach to the Gulf Coast. But it used to be a walking trail, and where this road is actually used to be a railroad line. So I wish it was still like that, but then you might have a bunch of vagrants camping and shit in there like you do at Lowe's. But this little area right here, actually we just passed the last place Jane Mansfield ever performed. It used to be called, I think it's Stevens Supper Club. She performed there, and then she stayed at the Cabana Beach Hotel, which was back about a half a mile and north 1 block. And then she did the famous ride on Highway 90, which we're on now, to New Orleans. And she got hit in Louisiana. They rear-ended the back of a truck, which is how you got the Mansfield bar on the back of every large transportation vehicle that ships any kind of freight or anything. It's called the Mansfield bar, and that has to do with how they hit the truck. But I'm going to pull us up to a landmark up here to conclude the ride. Not super far from it. If you want to know about cornering this bike, though, I didn't really take a whole lot. You can kind of see towards the early parts of the video. It's actually good at low speed. It's not bad. Low speed parking lots and stuff like that, you have to get used to the raked out front end. You have to get used to a longer wheelbase. But once you do, it's fine. Another thing on this, the throttling, it's buttery smooth. I've had some newer bikes. I've had some Honda. I had the Honda VFR 1200X 2017. Supposedly a Honda. Great. You know, I always give praise to Japanese bikes. But let me tell you something. No bike has responsive throttle like that. Like, this is definitely the most responsive throttle I've had. I know ride-by-wire is coming out on a lot of newer stuff, but this setup on this bike is super hard to beat. The only things I don't like, the small ass gas tank. If you pull anything with the battery, if you pull the battery out to replace it, you have the air box right here, and you have to pull velocity stacks and all that shit. Not only do you have to take this off, there's like a black plastic case underneath that. Underneath that is the air box with the velocity stacks. You gotta pull that and the air filter off. It's a pain in the ass to do. She does sound good, man. It's really rev happy too. It's kind of this bike is nuts because it's it's the only V-twin that I think of that like loves higher RPMs. You know, unless you go to the Japanese brands or to maybe Indian to the FTR. I do like how rev happy it is because it's weird, man. You get like you still get a kick in the ass from V-twin torque, but you get a reviness that you don't really get on a lot of other Harleys. I mean, we got, yeah, listen how fast that is. Over square, right? Over square the pistons, and it works. That is, in fact, the Biloxi Lighthouse. And I think that's a pretty decent little ride to give you an impression of things. And we'll go ahead and take a little look at the bike to wrap things up. Now, 2003 V-Rod 100th anniversary. I'm going to use some blue magic on the wheels. We're going to get her polished. We're going to get her ready. We're going to have it on sale at South MS Power Sports. And I'm going to miss it, man. Big part of this video really is sentimental, honestly. Get this out, but if you rode with me, I appreciate it. And we're gonna have some stuff coming out with the DR650 I think in the next few videos. I think once my back gets a little bit better, I'm gonna take it off-road in stock form, and then eventually I'll have a modded form off-road, and we'll get rid of, hopefully by the time you see the next video, this will be gone and the Voyager will be gone, and we're gonna pour a lot of focus into the DR. But thanks for joining me. Hope you like the scenery and have a good day.